Welcome to the Break Your Bullshit Box podcast, where excuses aren't tolerated and results are earned through authenticity, vulnerability, and a commitment to excellence. My name is Amber Fuhriman, success architect, attorney, and NLP trainer. If you're ready to bitch slap the bully in your brain, overcome the bullshit that holds you back, and design the life and success you've always wanted, then it's time for you to break your bullshit box and step into designing life and success on your terms. Welcome back to another episode of the Break Your Bullshit Box podcast. I am so excited to have Billy Mandarino with me today. He is the nowist. He is an author. He is a speaker. He is a believer in all things energy and universe and whatever God means to you. And I am so excited to dig into this conversation. You know, we had an incredible conversation before we started recording and really both believe that what needs to come out in conversations comes out in conversations. So what you're about to hear is entirely unscripted and meant just for you. So I'm excited for you to take exactly what you need from this conversation. Billy has a full feature film that is in the works. He also has his book. He does coaching and live events. And I know that we're going to have so much to talk about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome to the show. Billy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Amber. What an honor. I love it. I love the title of your show, Breaking the Bullshit Box. I mean, I'm a Taurus, so I know all about bullshit. And it's so easy for us to get caught up in that. So you're the only I've been on a lot of podcasts. You're the only one that's really like just cut to the quick and goes right to the meat and said, okay, this is what we need to talk about. No fluff. And of course, I'm in a world of fluff. I mean, since I work in the spiritual world and I teach people in the spiritual, I don't mean to call it fluff. I just mean to talk about, some people categorize it as woo woo or
Hmm.
spiritual or otherworldly or 5D. I live in that realm 90% of my day, but bringing people into that world from the bullshit world, which is really just this illusion that we give ourselves. And that's what the book is about. The Nowist teaches you how to get out of this linear time where most people live, where the bullshit resides. It's in past future. It's in the chronological timeline that we all get sucked into, the gravity of our problems. That's where the bullshit lives. So I'm always helping people get out of the physical time and into the divine time, the eternal time. And when you get the bullshit line, that linear time, and the eternal time, that crossification is the now. And that sweet spot of the present moment is where I teach people to live as nowists, help them get out of their patterns, their negative patterns, their erroneous thinking methods, and living in that free oneness place where the present moment resides.
Thank you so much. And I love the way that you phrased that because I grew up and started my career in the legal industry where, it's really weird because it's this no bullshit place, but sometimes you also feel like you're playing a part in a play at the same time, right? Because there's so many different things that are, especially when you're doing jury trials, that are fought before you're even in the eyes of the jury. So they're only getting part of the information. And so when I started my coaching business, I really struggled with this authenticity thing. And I think one of the things that you're talking about right now is understanding who you are at a divine level, whatever that means to you, and being willing to step into that. And mine came when I was at pure exhaustion. And I remembered being in a networking event and somebody asking me how I went from being an attorney to being a business coach. And I was entirely out of politically correct courtroom ready answers, and break your bullshit box came out. I said my bullshit box overflowed. I had an emotional breakdown, and in the process of learning how to rebuild myself, I learned how to help others do the same. And the moment I said it, there was this level of congruency and authenticity that ran through my body. And so I love that you described it that way because it really was finding my authentic self that allowed me to be that
Well,
transparent.
Amber, something that's come through for me right now is the Tony Robbins. I love Tony Robbins. You probably, and of course, you know who Tony Robbins is. I mean,
I do.
I was lucky enough to walk on fire with him years ago. When I came out of my dark times in late '80s, I was a professional model in New York, and man, the Big Apple just chewed me up and spit me out. When I came out of that, I found his book Unlimited Power. And I remember him talking about, speaking of boxes and the bullshit boxes, we all live in these boxes, we drive in these box cars to these box offices. We look at this box thing that we're looking at right now. And we come home and look at this box TV, and then we grab a cylinder for some variety. People grab a beer or a drink. But we all live in these boxes, but they're man-made. They're just an illusion. It's like time. Einstein said time is an illusion. We live in this illusory world. It's about your awareness. That's why the movie we're doing, it's called For Now. It's a movie helping you get out of the stress and the anxiety of trauma, past trauma. But the power of awareness is how anything changes. And you probably agree with that. When you have the awareness that you're living in this bullshit, that you're living in this box, that you're living out of your authentic highest self. That awareness is what's missing. It's numbing us down through comparison mentality, through how many likes is my life worth in social media, through the Joneses and competition. It's awareness that's missing. And that's why my partner and I have, my screenwriting partner, I've totally committed to this movie, this new movie to help people get out of their trauma. But it's through a story. Steve Jobs says that, the storytellers are the most powerful people in the world because they change the trends, they change the culture, because people always see themselves in a great story. So I've done live events and coaching and spoke all over the world. But I figured if I could help more people, to help more people, I need to get in front of more eyeballs. And people are on the big screens, they're on the small screens. And if we could do a feature-length movie for a couple hours and get people invested in a story and see themselves in that story, they would break their bullshit box. They would come out of this illusory time and into the light of awareness.
Yeah, I have so many things to say about that. But before we do, I want to let people get to know you and your journey just a little bit more because unless you are some misnomer in human behavior. You did not wake up one day and just become this nowist. There is a story behind how you got here. And so I'm curious to know what that looks like for you. When was it that you realized that you were living in this alternate non-real place and needed to find this authenticity? What led you to this nowist place that you're at now?
I'm going to give you two stories from my past that I think will help your viewers because, as Steve Jobs was saying, the stories are how people kind of relate to people. So, my Satori, which in Zen means a flash of enlightenment, my very first Satori came on a golf course in 2012. I was literally stressed out of my mind. I don't have vices. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I maybe eat a little too much junk food because I do love sugar. But back then, my relationships, my finances, a lot of stress in my life. And, I've always been a devout Christian. I was raised Mormon, converted from Mormonism to Catholicism, currently practicing Catholicism. And I believe that my mind was taking me out of my awareness and out of my authentic self because I was ruminating, constantly living in the past. Stress needs a time, it needs a timeline, it needs a past, it needs a future to live. It finds the present moment very indigestible. The ego, which stands for the ego, EGO, edging God out, which I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Back then, I was living so much in my ego and my false self. So on this golf course, so pissed off, throwing clubs after every other shot because my best friend has left me. My only vice that I had, I just started because you cannot play golf or any sport or any athletic ability when you're so caught up in thinking. It has to be in this flow state. So I'm throwing my clubs, and on the 15th hole of this course, I hit my driver down there, hit it really hard, hit it far, but still threw it after I hit the shot because I didn't hit it good. It was a lucky miss. So I get down to the ball, and I'm 74 yards out, and I start to feel tingling in my face and in my
Mm.
hands. My chest got really tight, and I was starting to I felt like a heart attack was coming on. I think the anxiety and I remember that I was the same age that my dad's dad died of a massive heart attack. And instantly I thought the flood of awareness was, oh my God, this is a congenital thing. This is like DNA. I'm gonna die just like my dad's dad. I'm having this heart attack. But something really weird happened, Amber. Like my awareness shot above the planet. My feet were still on the grass, but all of a sudden I could see about 3 miles above me, hovering above the planet, seeing this blue arc of the earth. And I learned later from Eckhart Tolle, a great spiritual teacher of the present moment, my highest self was looking at my lower self on the grass. And when I saw that, I realized I wasn't dying. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I knew I was having some spiritual experience. I knew I was having an epiphany. I didn't know what it was about. So then I'm up there, and I'm a very childlike, whimsical type of person. I thought, you know what? From up here, I could imagine this. I could see the ball going in the hole from up here. So I had this like imaginative thought. And I imagined that I was on the ground and I hit this ball into the hole from 74 yards and I saw it. And then instantly I like shot myself. My body's connected. My higher self, my lower self connected. I kind of shook myself off and I just said, okay, that was amazing. I just saw what it looked like. So I grabbed my club and I did just that. I hit the ball in the hole from 74 yards for an eagle. I was just like stunned. And I realized, and I don't even know I played the next few holes. I just ended up in my car for an hour just contemplating what had just happened. And it turned out later that these other synchronicities happened. And it was the power of the present moment connected to one of the greatest gifts that we've all been given, which is the power of our human imagination. I realized that was a clue. And it started me on this journey of self discovery, of living in the present moment. And then we fast forward to COVID 2020. And my wife and I are in Miami at her 50th birthday because all of COVID, the world was shut down. And it's
Right.
her 50th birthday. I want to have a party. We live here in Santa Barbara, California. And we take her to Miami. We go to the Fontainebleau. We have this great party. We come back January 2nd. We both come down with the very first strain of COVID. Then we give it to our daughter. They heal up in a couple days. But for 10 days, I'm in this bed right here with 102 fever, and my fever would not break. And I was losing weight, and I was just a mess. And so nobody prayed for me because I didn't want my family to pray for me because my father had just gone through an open heart surgery and he's 79 years old. And we didn't want anybody to pray for me, given that he needed all the prayers, because no Mandarino male has lived to be 80 years old in the history of our
Wow.
lineage. So we were all scared. So they get better. Everybody starts to pray for me. I break my fever the next day, and I feel like I do now. I feel great. So I quarantined for a little while, went and played golf again, 9 holes. The next morning, I wake up in this bed and I can't feel my face. I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my legs. 2 days later, I was paralyzed. I lost
Wow.
the ability to walk. And turns out I got Guillain-Barré syndrome from COVID, the very first one. In this county of 460,000 people, I got COVID, but then I got Guillain-Barré syndrome and I was paralyzed. So I spent 21 days in the hospital, learned how to walk again, talk again, almost died from my collapsed diaphragm. But through that process, and I tell you all of this to tell you how important the power of your imagination connected to your awareness, present moment awareness, I was able to heal my body in a quantum speed. Doctors still can't believe how fast I healed. In 2 months, I walked out of there and played golf again as if nothing had happened. That's the
That's so
power
crazy.
of your imagination connected to your awareness, living in the present moment, out of stress, focused on what it is you want. Epigenetically, I found out medically what I did. I changed the DNA expression of my body, upregulating proteins, the DNA, it's called epigenetics, through the power of my imagination, meditation, breath, connection to that quantum realm where initially where I was shot above the earth. I lived up there in oneness in the end as if I was already healed. And it was a miracle.
That's amazing. And I mean, I'm a big believer in the mind body connection for sure. And the ability of our body to heal itself, our body to kind of transform as we heal trauma and allow ourselves to step into who it is that we're supposed to be. I mean, stress does incredible things to the body. And I think that so many of us are living in survival mode that we don't actually know what it feels like to not be stressed. We know what it feels like to be overly stressed, but we don't know what it feels like to not be stressed because our nervous system is so used to having that energy that when we get the first opportunity to calm down, we feel like the peace is what's wrong, when in reality, it's the constant chronic stress that is wrong.
It's habit.
Um,
It's habit.
yeah, habit for sure. So, for the people who are listening to this that haven't quite reached the place that you are, or even the place that I am, because we're in very different places in our journey, that are looking at this going, all right, guys, like this is an interesting theoretical conversation, but it sounds a little crazy. Where do people start when they're first exploring the spiritual nowist conversation?
Great question. I get it a lot, and I love to share what's coming through in the moment and what has served me and what served a lot of my clients and people that I've taught, and spoke to, and in live events and groups of kids, people that are really caught up are always having the same problem. William Wordsworth said, "Habits rule the unreflecting herd." Habits rule the unreflecting herd. Most people are this herd of bad habits. They wake up in the morning. What's the first thing they do? They grab their cell phone, right? They instantly go to their email. So they condition themselves in stress. They get up, they go to the Keurig machine, they get a coffee, they watch the news. It's totally negative, nothing but negative and crap conditioning on that thing every morning. So then people have this, like, kind of like Tony Robbins saying, they have this routine, this box routine, right? They constantly go through the same thing. And then occasionally, that's why I live in this 90-10 ratio, and I teach people to live in this 90% present moment awareness, 10% worldly duties, emails, appointments, paying the bills,
Mm,
picking up the kids, going to soccer practice, all this. So people live in the inverse, 10 minutes or 10% of the day. They might have a little yoga, they might breathe, they might go to church on Sunday. They might, have a session where they try and get mindful for 20 minutes, but they don't live in a new habit where that record can never play the same. They got to scratch that record. And it
hmm
takes time. It's not like this magic pill I can give you this nowist prescription and you just are all going to be nowist. It takes time. It takes changing the play of that record so it can never play again. And then when you can interrupt your pattern, you can stop watching the news before you go to bed, stop eating junk food at 6, 7 o'clock, then you go to sleep, and then stop looking at your phone before you go to bed and thinking about all the shitty things that happened to you that day. Because the last thoughts you have, the last 5 minutes of your day, stay in your subconscious mind for 4 hours. So you wonder why people don't get in that healthy, reparative, parasympathetic healing state of their body because they're conditioning themselves into stress. You have to interrupt the pattern, start a new way of living, and then watch through time, you evolve. You start living in that, okay, maybe you're 70-30, then you're 60-40, then you're 50-50. You start getting your way, programming yourself out of the world and into present moment awareness.
It's so interesting because we do live in a world where we're constantly connected. And it's crazy to me to think back. I mean, even through my lifetime, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. I didn't get my first cell phone until mid 90s, right? So this idea of, might have been like late 90s, this idea of kids having cell phones from the ages that they're 6, 7, 8 years old, tablets from the time that they're young. It's an entirely different generation. But I think about how reliant we've become on them and what my life was like when I went to law school in Michigan and I graduated in 2012. So driving across the country, obviously I had GPS, I had all of this stuff. And I remember stopping to let my dog run at a dog park. And there was a guy in a beat up Chevy truck. It was a blue beat up Chevy truck. And he had stopped to use a payphone at this rest stop. And he had pulled out like a map, which at that point in time, I hadn't seen one of those in about 10 years, a map and a phone book. And I asked him, I said, did your cell phone like break down? And he's like, no, I don't have one. And
Attaboy.
and I'm like, it's 2009. Well, actually, no, 2012. How do you not have a cell phone? And he was in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. He's like, I lived the majority of my life without it. I don't need one. Add that now to just recently. I'm a huge sports fan, huge Packers fan, massive respect for Aaron Rodgers, even though it's a love-hate relationship. Um, and watching his journey into the spiritual world, one of the things that it's brought into my awareness is the idea of a darkness retreat. And I was looking at getting one scheduled and starting the planning process. And the first thought that went through my head was 3 days, like 3 days in the dark I can do, but without my cell phone. And it's like you forget that when you say you're going to commit to 1, 2, 3 days or minutes or hours or whatever it is of present awareness, you're like, yeah, I can do that, but I get to have my phone, right? And it's interesting how much we've come to rely on them.
It's conditioning. It's hardwired into our hard. Talk about hardware, software. The hardware, we're hardware wiring ourselves. Our neuroplasticity. We're definitely reconfiguring neurons, synapses. These connections to the hardware that is this thing right here. And it's so easy to just stop. You just stop. Like you just stop. The harder part is to make the decision. I mean, stopping is easy, right? Just okay, we're gonna stop. But it's a hit. It's a conditioning. It's a pattern. It's something you have to have like we were talking earlier, you have to have enough pain to change,
Hmm.
right? Or enough pleasure to change. Like people are very programmed already. So they need to interrupt the program, but they have to make the decision to change. That's the hardest
Yeah,
thing.
and I'll go a couple of steps further than that because I think pleasure can cause can cause change for sure. But if pleasure causes change, the chances of you going back to an old lifestyle is so much higher. When pain causes change, you're like, that hurt too much. I'm
Exactly.
not going back there, right? And I love what you said about deciding to change because I tell people that all the time. I tell them that change happens in an instant. It's deciding to change that takes time, right? We like the moment we decide we're done, and I know everybody listening to this knows what it feels like to have that moment, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a career where you had hit your breaking point and you were done. And the change happened so quickly after you hit that point. But it was deciding to allow yourself to change that took time. And I think people confuse those two concepts.
And that's why this movie that my Michael Balker, my screenwriting partner, and I are so committed to because it's the awareness that people need. If you can get if you're aware, because most people are just dumbed down in this drone of habits, this drone of day-to-day in and out life, they just forget that there's a better life on the other side of that change. But it's just so you're so stuck in this like illusion. They call it the hologram, right? You're just stuck in this illusion that this is my life, this is how it has to be, this is what I have right now. It can't get better than this because I got obligations, I've got kids, bills, family obligations, grandparents that are sick. There's so many excuses that we make, but if we can create a film that will bring some awareness, some light on the fact that most people are living, and this is why we made our film, Amber, because I read this quote 3 years ago from Dr. Carl Jung. He says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, the unconscious rules your life, and you call it fate." That sounds like a habit,
Yes.
doesn't it? So that made me think, wait a minute. If and then I did it. The NIH had this study saying that 2/3 of the planet has an unresolved trauma they don't even know they have
Yeah.
because it's subconscious, pointing back to Carl Jung's quote. So I came to Michael Balker, my screenwriting partner, and said, "Hey, dude, let's make a movie about this. I've done live events. I've done all this great work. My band, we create a full record around it. We've helped a lot of people, but we can help more people if we can get into this space of this unresolved childhood trauma. A lot of it's childhood trauma. And how can you bring awareness into it, into the light of awareness, so they can actually find out what they need to work on?" And our story is a psychological thriller. It's a story that can entertain you, but also bring enlightenment into your life.
I love that. As an NLP trainer, we do a ton of Carl Jung conversations, and I love that you brought that up. The other one that as we head into a bullshit conversation is that you cannot escape from a prison until you acknowledge that you're in one. And that just like sums up our life, right? Like I have a slide in every presentation that I do where I use PowerPoint slides. If not, I describe the slide. As a former criminal defense attorney, I'll put up a slide of a prison cell with the cold gray walls and the bars on the window. And I'll say, everybody knows that a prison looks like this. What they don't know is that it also looks like this. And then I'll put a picture of a human being with all of our imposter syndrome, our excuses, our I don't have time, our I'm not good enough, our all the things that pop into our head that build the invisible bars of the prison that we've chosen to live in. And the reality is that we cannot break out of those until we acknowledge that they exist. And acknowledging that they exist is a painstaking process of undoing the programming that we've allowed ourselves to experience our entire life. So I love that you're turning that into an entertaining story that people can see themselves in.
That's the only way I think to create change. I mean, as that Steve Jobs quote goes, I just think stories. You think about the ancient stories, the greatest story ever told, the Bible. You've got the Tao Te Ching, the story told 2,500 years ago for Lao Tzu at the gates of China. I mean, that book is 2,500 years old. I mean, it's 500 years older than the Bible. These stories that have been two of the wisest books ever written. I don't know if people in your audience are struggling to find the spiritual part of them, if they're so caught up in the doing and the seeking. It sounds corny, but we're human beings, not human doings. But most people are caught in the doing. But I always ask questions to my clients like, well, how much time do you spend reading or just deeply taking in spiritual books? How often? Because that can help program that subconscious part. It's the patterns, it's the new habits. A lot of folks just kind of read Instagram quotes or they go TikTok scrolling, but they don't really absorb a book, holding a physical book, reading a book, applying this to your life, seeing how it relates to your life. Everything is synchronicity. There's no accidents in this divinely organizing universe. Pay attention to those spiritual breadcrumbs and they'll find out how to take you out of that darkness and into the light of awareness.
Yeah, I love that so much. So let's talk about bullshit for just a little bit because one of the things when I started this podcast in 2019, it's gone through different names and it's gone through different journeys. But the one thing that I knew I always wanted to talk about was our journey to success. And I used to tell my guests, like, I appreciate that you have made it to some great successes in your life, and I give almost zero shits about that. I want to talk about all of the things that you had to go through in order to get to the place that you are now. Because I know when I started my journey, and I'm sure that you'll relate when you started yours, we look at other people and we think, man, you have got it all figured out. And the moment that somebody tells me I have got it all figured out, it is the moment that I start laughing because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I
Nobody
just,
does.
right? I just figure
Nobody
it
does.
out day to day. So, what's some of the biggest internal blocks for you, the bullshit, the invisible prison bars that you had to overcome to get to where you are? And then what are you going to have to overcome to get to the next level of who you're supposed to be?
Two great questions. Thank you so much. I'm loving your interview process. Just the fact the theme is so refreshing. It's so current, I think. People love to get right to the point, and I think this podcast is all about that. So the bullshit, the bullshit. It's just fun to even say it. Uh, because all the podcasts I've on are just they're lovely. I love it, but this is just very much to the point. So bullshit is, when I started doing talks maybe 15 years ago, I was speaking at Career Day I'm a real estate agent. I'm a property manager. That's how I kind of monetize the Nowist and create the abundance to pay it forward to the world through the Nowist teachings, through the movies, the live events. Everything that I do comes from how can I serve, not what's in it for me. It becomes this act of service. But then I remember reading this wonderful quote of what success means to Henry David
Mm.
Thoreau. Have you heard that quote?
I have
His
not, but
defini-
I love this
his
conversation
definition of
already.
success is my definition of success. And about 15 years ago, I remember, it was part of this I was in front of like 100 kids, and I had this whole game that we were playing about teaching them how to get out of the world and out of goal seeking, how to get out of, just trying to compete with their buddies and get the A and get the gold star. It's like, what is success? I know it's maybe a little heady for these kids, but I had to break it down. So Henry David Thoreau says success when you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and endeavor to live a life you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours.
Mm.
Success will begin to chase you. So people have these definitions of success. And I think their definition of success might be money, it might be a relationship, a car, a cool trip, you know, things, material things usually are connected to materiality. But when you can live in that amazing state, I think it's so underplayed. The power of your imagination, the power of your contentment. Contentment is where this is where they miss it. I don't set goals anymore. That same group of kids I was talking to, middle school kids, I'm in the auditorium, I'm talking to these kids, and I got these PowerPoints, and I'm saying, kids, no longer set goals. I don't believe in goal setting. You could hear a gasp in all the teachers in the room. The principal's like, get that dude off the stage. Like, no goals? How do you not set goals? Like, so I explained to them, I believe in thinking from the end instead of about the end. And there's a
Mm.
totally different thing. About the end is like, okay, I'm gonna sell a $10 million house. I've got to do all this stuff, this, showings, appointments, brokers, tours, all these things, email spamming everybody. And then I will sell the house after 70, 80 days. I mean, that's what statistics tells me. But then I realized, if I'm going to sell this house, I have to feel like it's already done if I'm using the power of my imagination. And I was reading a wonderful book by Neville Goddard. So your crew should look up Neville Goddard. He was a very popular teacher in the 30s and 40s, but he's kind of been forgotten. But he was brilliant. He's the one that taught me how to think from the end instead of about the end in his wonderful book called The Power of Awareness.
Mm.
And from the end, this is and I've sold a lot of property this way. Speaking of financial success and how I've had to overcome things in my life to answer your questions and the bullshit I've had, I used to write my bathroom mirror goals for years, for decades. I ripped them down after I had that talk with those kids because I said, I'm going to walk my talk. Because I had these mirrors, full of these goals, and I would look at them every day and I would imagine they're going to get done. I'd look at them in the morning, I'd look at them at night when I'm brushing my teeth, and I realized that, that's stress. I feel too connected to the outcome. I'm stressed. I'm worried. I haven't shown the properties. I'm trying to help my family buy this property. I don't have it. I don't have the money. So I had to sell and I had to live in this end as if it's already done. So what I did every night, this is what I shared with the kids. Every night before you go to bed, you imagine that it's done. So if I'm selling this big property as an example, I would imagine it's Christmas time. And I'm walking over to their house down their beautiful driveway, bringing them a Christmas present for the closing gift because the house had closed earlier. I just want to give them this wonderful gift. So I'm imagining it's Christmas. I'm walking over, I'm smelling the eggnog, I'm tasting the eggnog, I'm smelling the tree, I'm feeling the love of the family. I hear the Christmas music playing as I walk in the door, and I hand them this wonderful gift because this is their new home. I did that every night. So one particular story took me 7 nights. I didn't miss. In the morning, I did the same thing. 7 nights later, on the eighth day, a couple, two kids, a dog, a mom and dad, a couple with two kids and a dog was what I was imagining for the 7 nights. That's who I sold the property to, because
Wow.
your imagination is the most powerful gift God has given you. And how do you use it? And when you can use it linking from the end instead of about the end, watch the synchronicities. These synchronicities, these spiritual breadcrumbs will show up in your life, and your goals will become, they'll disappear. You have this power of intention, this power of your imagination, the power of the end. And when I did that, everything shifted. So now making this feature length film, it's a huge budget film. We've got a Hollywood screenwriter, director. Talk about, what am I overcoming to make this happen?
Yeah.
You have to create millions of dollars to create this movie. And so now it's about literally in night feeling it from the end, seeing the premieres, feeling what it's like to be on set, feeling the eyes of the people watching through their little screens in the streaming service or the theater, watching it in that dark room, feeling transformed. That's what I focus on now because we have to raise millions of dollars to make this movie.
Yeah. I think, sorry, excuse me for just a minute. My apologies. So I think that one of the most interesting things is this conversation of goal setting, because I am not quite to the place you are where I'm willing to rip my goals off the wall yet. However, um, I do work with my clients to get them to understand what they think that goal is going to get for them. And I think that's the mistake that people make, right? Is they think, I'm going to sell this house, I'm going to make this six figures, I'm going to get this job, I'm going to get the relationship, and then I will feel this way. And so when we dig down to what the purpose is of wanting a goal, when we dig down to what we think it is that worldly accomplishment is going to do for us internally, we can start to acknowledge that number one, if we don't feel that way without the goal, we're sure as fuck not going to feel that way with it, right? Like there is zero chance that making, and I only know this because this is where my story started. This is how I ended up hyperventilating in a hotel room for 4 days because I hit six figures, and in my world, money equaled success, success equaled happiness, and happy people didn't hurt, right? So if I made $100,000 a year, which I don't know when in the 80s and 90s $100,000 a year became some magic number, but it seems to be that universal like tipping point. And it was supposed to be the magic number. And when it wasn't, everything crumbled. So I think that there's this incredible conversation, and I love the way that you frame it, of setting goals for yourself and milestones for yourself, understanding that they are the journey, not the destination, while also understanding that if you don't have the peace, the comfort, the love, the self-awareness, the self-worth, the appreciation, the respect, the whatever it is that you think that goal is going to give you, that you're not going to have it when you get it either. And that to me is the sweet spot of the spiritual and the worldly, materialistic at the same
Adding on
time.
to that, Amber, that's so well said. Thank you. I love that you bring it back home to, yes, to, I guess, a more grounded place because I live in that 90% all
I
the
can
time.
tell.
90% I live in the spirit world. It's crazy. But hey, I manage a lot of property. I sell a lot of property. I have a beautiful wife of 30 years. We have an 18-year-old daughter that just got into college, and we have a great dog. And I'm a musician and a teacher and a speaker, and we're doing this movie. I got all kinds of stuff I do. So it's not that I'm just in this woo-woo 90% place and not doing anything. That's not what it's about. You're missing the message if that's what you think it's about. But the problem is we get so caught up in the outcomes, we get so
Hmm.
caught up in the doing. I've just learned to live in contentment. And that's where people don't live. They think, I
Yeah.
can't be content. I got to hustle. I got to work my ass off, man. This is just hard, man. I got all this competition. I'm going to get fired. I got the mortgage. I bought a new house. I can't afford that boat I bought. Like they just get in the seeking mode and they don't realize that when you have everything you need, you get everything you want. That's
Yeah.
contentment. So I live in
I love
contentment.
that.
Thinking from the end, not about the end, is that contentment. Me feeling like it's already done, no stress, no, and knowing that I got to, do a $2,000 brokers open and feed everybody and get everyone advertised and like flyer the neighborhood and send out postcards. Like that's not contentment. Contentment is it's already done. And then the
Yeah.
universe conspires around you to help you. I think most people get in the seeking mode too much instead of the contentment where it's already done. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about
Yeah.
thinking from the end, not about the end. The contentment is the next level for most of your viewers and listeners.
Yeah, I think I think that what people often misunderstand is the real, well, I'm not even going to say misunderstand because we're never taught it. So until people learn it, they can't misunderstand it. So I think what people get to learn is that that voice in your head that we have not learned how to reframe and listen to, that intuition that we have is not accidental. I think when somebody pops in my head, I mean, we've all had this experience. So if you're listening to this show and I want you to think to a time where somebody's popped in your head and you've had the awareness to reach out to them and message them and just say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you today." And their response is either, "God, I was just about to call you," or it's, "Thank you so much. You have no idea how much I needed to hear from somebody today." So I don't think that thoughts or people or experiences pop into our mind without a purpose or an intention. But we get so stuck in what you're talking about of chasing the next thing that we say, "Oh, I'll do that later." If it pops in your head now, it's because it's supposed to happen now. And all too often, we miss the moments that we're supposed to experience now because we're too focused on what we want to experience later. And we don't realize that those two things go hand in hand. You can't experience later without experiencing now. And I love the way that you're bringing that into people's awarenesses.
Well, you bring something up great, Amber, which is kind of the unified field. It's called quantum entanglement. If you want to get crazy, next level
Oh,
scientific.
me and quantum physics have a real close
Yeah. So
relationship. I
quantum
love
physics. So
that
you're talking
shit.
about quantum entanglement. You're talking about the unified field. And we've all, everybody listening, watching, could find a time where they said, you know what, I was just like you said, thinking about you. I was, focusing on this one thing and it showed up. Like I really wanted to find a white lily. I wanted someone to bring me a white lily. And then what do you know? Somebody just randomly brings you up a white lily. Your grandma just drops it off at your front doorstep because I was focusing on a white lily. There's so many things that are synchronistic and you have the power. I had a client once, speaking of quantum entanglement in the unified field. I sold him this property and I got him a huge price for this property. For 6 months, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. Then all of a sudden, I just did what I was talking about, right? After 6 months, I haven't sold this property because I forgot what I teach. It's easy to get out of that mode because the world there's a gravity of this world. There's this linear chronological time that always tries to pull you back in. You have to really work to stay out of it. That's why habits are so important. But I remembered that's what it was. So I focused on it. It happened. And then 3 months went by and I'm making a sandwich in the kitchen. And out of the blue, I have this thought like, damn, I wonder if this guy remembers, we'll call him John. I wonder if John remembers how much freaking money I made him on that deal when nobody else could sell
Mm.
the property. And I did it. Like, it was kind of an egoic moment, but I'm just making a sandwich thinking about this. Honest to God, 30 seconds later, 3 months had gone by. He calls me, says, you know what, Billy? I just want to give you a call and thank you for selling that property for so much. Can I write you a recommendation letter? Can I write you a referral letter? I mean, there it is. And everyone has stories like that. But you are more powerful than you know. The unknown is where the growth is. You got to live in it.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's interesting because one of my favorite things to ask my clients when I'm in either a group or one-on-one relationship with them, my favorite answer from people is I don't know, right? I'll ask them a question, they'll be like, I don't know. And my response, and I'm not talking about knowledge, right? So I'm talking about like if we're talking about what people want to accomplish by the end of the year, and they're like, I don't even know. My favorite thing to ask them is let's just assume for just a minute that you don't have puppet strings on your back and that you're in control of your own life and you get to make your own decisions. What could it be? And within seconds, they have an answer for me. Because what we're taught is that we people always ask me, they say, can you help me figure out what it is that I want? And I say, no, because you already
No,
know what you want, but I can help you figure out why you're not allowing yourself to have it.
great
I've
question.
never met anybody who doesn't know what they want. I have only met people who think that they don't deserve what they want or that they can't have what they want. And
Because
we
of
can't
conditioning.
get past that until we do what you're talking about. So let's bring this back down to a little bit of tangible conversation again. So somebody is former version of myself. Let's go there. Type A, goal setting, control freak, likes to schedule their days out to the second, which sometimes I still do out of a planning purpose. Um,
I do too. I schedule.
yeah, we've got a schedule.
Yeah.
Stressed, um, easily set off, temperamental, being career oriented, all of the good things, but not healthy in a spiritual way. That's looking at this saying, I don't have time for spirituality. I don't have time for these conversations. What is one action that they can take right now that will help them start to make these changes in their life?
Thank you. Great question. So it's usually the same answer. When I work with clients, I said, let me see your calendar and let me explain to me your morning ritual. Because before you go to sleep and when you wake up, your brain waves get in this very, programmable, it's called theta, delta brainwave frequencies, where your brain can be your subconscious mind can be accessed. We're now talking in beta and alpha brainwave frequency, very fast brainwave frequencies. That's what we do. That's the doing mode. But when you get in the subconscious programmable mode, that's the morning. So these people that want to change their life. And Billy sounds a little woo-woo. He's a little out there in the 5D spiritual land, and I don't really get him. Do this every morning before you wake up. Don't grab your phone. Interrupt that pattern. Don't
Mm.
grab your phone. Take your left hand, put it on your heart. Take your right hand, cover your left hand, and breathe into your heart before you even put your feet on the ground. Breathe into your heart. Breathe into the gratitude. Find something, your kids, your health, your dog, your cat, your whatever. Find something to be grateful for and take three like breaths into your heart with your left hand. Your left hand's on your heart because the venous amoris vein that runs from your wedding finger all the way through your body to your heart is the most powerful, rich blood supply to your heart. Your heart's your most magnetic part of your whole body and your entire body, not your brain. Your heart's the most magnetic part. You're in this subconscious mode. You interrupt your morning ritual by starting this one thing, by breathing gratitude into your heart before you get out. And then when you get up, do not go to your phone. Don't go turn the TV on. Two or three inner pattern interrupts in the morning will change your morning ritual, which will make the next thing easier. Take a few breaths. Think what you're grateful for. Stand, move your body a little bit. I mean, just literally have an interrupt in your pattern. If you want to change the way you look at things, as Dr. Wayne Dyer says, you got to change the way you look at things to change the way that things happen in your life. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So you need to change. So some simple change, but gratitude is the best multiplier. When you can get in the gratitude out of the seeking mode, just grateful for what you have in some type of contentment, that will interrupt your pattern. It'll make you easier to do the next thing. Maybe I'm not going to eat that junk tonight. Maybe I'm actually going to go work out. Maybe I'm going to run a little bit. Maybe I'm going to do like 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups. Maybe it'll interrupt your pattern to do the next thing because the morning is the most programmable part of your day. It's the first chance you have to change. And it becomes easier if you can just do it consistently, 30 days. It's not that hard. Gratitude is your next. You're missing out on gratitude. You're always in the seeking mode. You got to be grateful for what you have first.
I love that. I am gonna incorporate that because I don't do that now, and at least not intentionally, right? Um, Towards the end of last year, I created a annual planner, and each agenda style day on the right hand side has questions to ask yourself throughout the day. And the very, very first question is today will be a success if. And so sitting in that spot and putting your hand on your heart and doing that meditation and saying, like, what is the absolute thing? And I did this from a gratitude perspective because it's what I needed, because I have such big, massive transformational goals that no matter how much I accomplished throughout the day, I never felt like it was enough. So I had to give myself a question that was like in the very beginning of the day, what makes today a success? And it was normally something small. Some days when I was feeling super healthy, my unconscious mind would tell me that making that today being a success was connecting with somebody that I needed to connect with and maybe providing a solution for them. Some days, today being a success was making it through the day. And no matter what the answer was, I knew that at least I had a gratitude piece that I could lean into to where I could look back and say, I told myself that I was going to be successful today if this happened. So now I don't get to go back and second guess all my progress today. So I absolutely, absolutely
Amber, I
love
know
that.
you know what success is because the secret to having it all is knowing you already
Is
do.
knowing you already do.
That quote right behind your head right there. The secret to
Yes.
having it all is that sounds like contentment, doesn't it? That sounds like
Yeah.
gratitude.
Yeah, and it is true. You know, obviously the secret to having it all is knowing that you already do, and then from there you grow. I absolutely love the idea of not having your phone around you, and I haven't gotten there yet. So I'm still working on it. In
It's
fact,
okay. You just one day, just try it. A few days to
one
try and get some
day
habit, some repetition. You'll
one day and I do know that it's important because I can tell the difference. Like I've finally gotten to the point especially with closing the law firm and not having staff in it anymore and all of the communication falling on my shoulders. I have finally gotten to the point where I set an autoresponder on my email that says, I've received your email. I will respond within the next 72 hours because then I don't feel the need to check my email every single day. In my coaching business, we're actually working on a new email strategy, which I'm so excited. You've seen my dog come in and pop in this video a
I
couple of
love dog.
times.
What's dog spelled backwards?
God, yeah, I had never thought about that. She is, for a long time, I thought I'm going to put her in her crate. When I first started this podcast, I'm going to lock her out of the room. And I'm like, she's my chief complaint officer. I have a picture in my office that says, "Tell me your problems, I'll eat them," and it's her picture. Like,
I love
she's
it.
a part of my brand. So if she wants to jump in my podcast, she's going to jump in my
I
podcast.
love it. Be you.
Um, but when um there was a purpose of me going down this road, and I don't remember what it was.
Good dogs are the
Um,
best distraction.
they are the best distraction, and she is so like completely present all the time. In fact, that's the name of the next book is Life Lessons from the Dog Park, what my German Shepherd taught me about play, purpose, and perspective.
Amen. I love
Um,
that title.
yeah, I'm so excited for it. So, anyways, I'm sure my thought will come back to me when we're done recording, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's what I meant." This feature film, tell me more about how people can get more information on it, where they can learn more about how they can contribute if they need to. What is it that we can do to support you in that process, and where can people find information on it?
Thank you so much, Amber. If they go to fornowfilm.com, FORNOW film.com, fornowfilm.com, takes you to trailers, takes you to a podcast that the screenwriter and I and my screenwriting partner and I created about what the movie's about, the deep dive into how we're going to help people emerge from trauma through this storytelling. There's also a lot of kind of social proof. It shows Michael Balker how he helped catch the Golden State Killer. He spent 25 years trying
Wow.
to track this guy down. He was integral in catching the Golden State Killer. The movie has a serial killer in it. It's a psychological thriller with a serial killer, but it's really going through the light of awareness, but through the darkness first, right? You have to go through the dark to get to the light. And if you go to fornowfilm.com, you'll be able to see the trailer. There's a nice write up on it. There's also a place where you can contribute to help this mission of ours to help people get out of trauma. I mean, the story briefly, the log line, the pitch, and I'm going to read it to you real quick because my buddy wrote this really cool log line because we've worked, a log line is basically telling you what the movie's about, right? In a short, like imagine you're in an elevator and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's this movie about? So the movie is, sorry, just wait one second. I'm going to pull it up here because it's a new log line that our screenwriter just wrote up and I thought it was perfect. Okay, here it is coming at you. When a local land dispute sparks a political crisis and things begin to turn dark in sunny Santa Barbara, real estate maven Thomas Monroe sets out to defend his family from outside forces. Problem is, the danger may be coming from within in this taut psychological thriller.
Mm, I love that. Are you a music fan?
I'm a musician, actually.
Really? What do you play?
singer, songwriter, guitar. I have a band called Present Tense. We brought a
Oh, of
record out.
course you do.
Yeah,
Of course your
I've been a
band is
musician
called
for 30
Present
years.
Tense.
I've had 5 bands. Now we're a duo. We're called Present Tense. If you go to fornowfilm.com, you can that goes all links out to all the social media. You can hear it. We did a full length record about the music of the present moment, which is the nowest. We have this whole
Okay.
it's all out there. So you go to fornowfilm.com. It links out to everything. Music,
I,
videos. There's 600 videos
I
on our
love
YouTube
it.
channel.
And I love that your band is on point with your brand. Present Tense is such a perfectly named band for somebody who's known as the Nowist. That's awesome. I'm a huge, huge country music fan, and Eric Church has a song called Monsters. Have you heard this?
I I know Eric Church. I'm not sure if I heard that song, but I love a good country song for sure.
So he starts the song, and I didn't want to mess up these lyrics. So he starts the song by talking about what it was like to have your dad come kill monsters underneath your bed when you're 7 years old. And then he goes into the chorus and he says, "Any more when a restless feeling keeps me up at night. Falling on my knees is my new turning on the light. I keep my faith intact, make sure my prayers are said, because come to learn the monsters aren't the ones beneath the bed."
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't that like, and so I play this in all of my trainings. I get goosebumps when I
I
read it
love that.
because the reality is the biggest monsters that we will ever face are the ones in our head.
Always. The thinking mind
Every
is a
time.
lie. The feeling is the truth. Remember that your thinking mind's a lie. The feeling, the gut is the truth.
Yeah, 100%. And then when we were talking before we recorded, we were talking about a book I want to make sure that I share with the audience. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look it up yet. So I'm interested to know your thoughts if you had. But we talked about I Hope I Screw This Up by Kyle Cease. Did you have a chance to check that book out yet?
It's in my Audible. It's teed up. It's probably my fourth book that I'm going to, once I get the other ones, that's fourth on the list, but I'll definitely listen to it.
I love
I
it.
know he's a comedian. I've saw some YouTubes on him. He's great. He's awesome.
He's fantastic. So, for those of you listening, the reason I brought this up is because I know what it feels like to live so much in this type A, accomplished stuff, check mark off the checklist, the next thing that's supposed to make you happy. And I also know what it feels like. I grew up with a lot of religious trauma. I also grew up Mormon, and then I left the Mormon church. And when I say religious trauma, I don't mean what people think of when they think of abuse in a church. I mean guilt and shame based approaches to religion. And so for me, when people would talk about spirituality, when they would talk about this awareness and this enlightenment, it would trigger so much trauma for me that I hadn't healed at the time, that I wasn't ready to have that conversation until I found this book. So it's called I Hope I Screw This Up. And Kyle Cease is described as what would happen if Eckhart Tolle and Jim Carrey had a baby.
Oh my
He's
God.
a
Jim Carrey's my
comedian.
favorite.
Oh my gosh, he's so great. So I tried to read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it
Mhm.
was too much for my unhealed
It's
trauma brain.
esoteric. It's very esoteric.
But when Kyle Cease talks about the same things from a comedic standpoint, as you said, stories, comedy, all of that takes kind of the heaviness off of these conversations. So if you're listening to this saying this sounds great, but I don't know how, I would encourage you to give that book a shot because it was kind of the opening of the enlightenment conversation for me, of somebody bringing it down into the tangible world. So I'm really excited after you read it, Billy, to hear your thoughts on it from somebody who lives in that world. But for those of you listening to the show, go check it out because I promise you it'll be kind of an open door, maybe a gateway drug to
Amber, is it pretty
spirituality for
comedic? Is
you.
he comedic is it very
Oh,
comedic?
he's
In
hilarious.
the
He's
book,
hilarious.
is he in the book, same thing?
Like there's a chapter that's like, this is chapter, I'm just calling it chapter 4. I don't know if that's what it is. This is chapter 4. And the only reason it's here is because my editor told me I needed more words. And then it goes on to chapter 5.
See,
Like
that's
the
real. People want
whole
real.
book
That's
is
real.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just
I
down
mean,
to earth.
and he starts it. He starts the book by talking about how he's sitting in front of his computer with a deadline of like 60,000 words. And he's like, okay, I'm 75 words in, which means I only have 59,000. Like, so it's this real conversation of taking on a project that you don't think you can do, that you don't think you're good enough for, stepping into the awareness that only you can do this thing, that nobody else will ever do it like you. And then these conversations. And I love the title because we cannot have what it is we want in life until we are willing to mess it up first. So this idea of I hope I screw this up, like I want to fail as much as I possibly can because if I'm not screwing things up, I'm not pushing myself.
You have to attempt. I mean, the only
Yeah.
loss is not attempting. And you only fail when you quit. If you don't
Yeah.
quit, there's no failure. So just keep
100%.
going. It's very synchronistic that you said that, Amber, because I was just reading a quote today. It was from who was it? It might have been Elon Musk. He's just saying, hey, you never fail. I mean, yes, if you don't sell your Tesla stock, you didn't lose anything. Or like you only fail when you quit. It's like people are
Yeah.
worried about the volatility of the market. They're worried about what's happening. What's in this moment? Like, what is lacking? That's another Zen thing about tradition, about the Zen tradition. It's like, in this moment, what is wrong? What's lacking?
Yeah.
That gets you in the present moment really quick and get your thinking mind to get out of the linear time. And I think about it, if you don't quit, you didn't fail. So just take another swing.
Just
You
take
either
another swing.
learn or you win. There's no losing. You learn or you win. That's it.
Brene Brown, who is another hero of mine, did a TED talk where she described the TED conferences as the failure conference, which I absolutely loved. And she was talking about one of the TED fellows that kind of founded this whole conversation. And he was talking about how he saw a need for a drug in the market. And so he made it, and everybody cheered. And then he says, and it didn't work. So then I made it 95 more times. And then it worked. And it's like, and then even going back, do you know the story of Thomas Edison
Yes.
and his
Thousand
letter
light bulbs,
that
thousand
he
tries.
received?
Yep.
Yeah, are you familiar with his the story of the letter that his teacher sent home from school?
I am.
So for those of you listening who may not be, the story goes that Thomas Edison had a letter that he was told to take home to his mom, and he asked his mom to read it to him, and his mom opens up this letter, starts crying, and she reads this letter to Thomas Edison, and it says, "Your son is one of the smartest people that we have ever met. We cannot teach him at this school. We can't keep up with him. Please homeschool him." And then he goes on to become Thomas Edison, and his mom dies. And he is cleaning out a desk and he finds this letter and he opens it up and it says, "Your son is mentally ill. We cannot teach him. He is too slow. Please homeschool him." And I think he wrote in one of his papers, Thomas Edison, a mentally ill child that became the greatest inventor in history as a result of a mother's love. And I think that it's just such an incredible story that, like, what we are told is what we will believe. What we believe is what we will become. And we get to create what it is that we're told and we believe.
So I think a great thing to leave us with, Amber, is thoughts being things, and as you think, so you create, and the power of words. You know who Dr. Emoto is?
I
He wrote,
do.
right, his hidden messages of water and meanings of what and how words connected to water, how water has a proof that there's an energy to it, and words have an energy to it, and we're 70% water. The earth is 70% water. But the words you tell yourself in that water, in your subconscious mind, imagine that changes the cellular structure of your body, your brain, the energy field of your body. It's all connected. So make sure you tell yourself good words. Don't be talking bad to yourself, because that's just only going to connect your point of attraction, that vibration of your body, to what you don't want. Because whatever you
I
focus on gets
absolutely love
bigger.
it. Absolutely love it. I have a feeling, Billy, that you and I could talk all day, and I want to be respectful of your time. So let's wrap this up with letting people know where they can find you. So if they want to follow up on this conversation, if they want to learn more about how they can work with you or support you in any way, or check out your podcast, which we didn't have a chance to talk about either, what's the best way for them to find you?
Amber, first, just thank you so much. I really appreciate this kind of switched on, tuned in conversation with somebody who's so real and grounded. I just really appreciate what you're about, how you're serving people, how you're showing up in the world. But if you want to check me out, you go to billymandarino.com. It links out to all of our social media. It's myname.com. It also takes you back to the fornowfilm.com site, which is connected to all of it. We have 550 videos on our YouTube channel, which are all free teaching about the Nowist, to learn more about the Nowist meditation, about how to get online courses, coaching. But more importantly, I'm just looking to serve this world that's in overwhelming stress and just help them get out of this thinking pattern and into their hearts, into the energy that really changes lives.
I love it. Billy, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the reminder to be present and focused. And I will give you a report shortly on how my mornings without my phone have changed my life.
Please go for it. Thank you so much, Amber. You're the best.
Thanks.